Learn more at paulharrell.com.
By going to the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, headline here, state's revenue falls short of forecast. Can we show that to the audience who are listening online, Facebook Live, YouTube? State's revenue below forecast. August total $5.4 million less than in same month last year. Now, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to keep referring back to this headline. State's revenue falls short. Okay? Now, the one I have, the one that was actually printed in the paper, sometimes they do this. How many people think read the online versus the actual tangible corporeal version? I don't know. I think more people probably are going to see this headline. The headline that I have in front of me that's on the paper is State's revenue falls short. That's it. The one online, the one that you're seeing, State's revenue below forecast. August total $5.4 million less than in same month last year. It's still conveying essentially the same thing. But if you start reading this, you'll find quickly that something, I don't know, there's something interesting about talking about how the state's revenue is falling short when in fact we're having record revenue. So that would actually mean something different. That would actually mean that your revenue projections are wrong. Now, we can go to a flashback a couple of weeks ago where Duncan Baird actually got the budget director for the governor, actually got a massive increase in salary. And, of course, his job is to forecast the budget. He got this increase in salary after he failed to project the budget accurately, which caused the governor to have to cut $113 million in total from last fiscal year and this fiscal year. And then they said we have a revenue problem, not a spending problem. They were very key to point that out, by the way. They didn't say we have a revenue problem, not a spending problem, by the way, because they were responding. This was breaking news. No, they know who you are. They said we have a revenue problem, not a spending problem, because they know the criticism. They're trying to get out in front of the criticism. Listen to this. Arkansas's total general revenue, the second paragraph, Arkansas's total general revenue collection of $468.2 million last month also fell $500,000 short of expectations. However, after revenue in July set a record for the first month of the fiscal year, state agencies will have more cash available than expected so far in fiscal 2018. Stop. Again, headline is State's revenue falls short, but if you dig into the actual second paragraph here, you find out that they have record. July set a record for revenue. Well, that's weird. That means that it's their revenue projections that are off. And you know what? That would mean that we're actually spending too much money. If the government is getting record revenue and it's still falling below projections, how does that not indict the Republican majority, the leadership that refuses to stand up to the governor? And it exposes Governor Hutchinson as being somebody who has spent money. This guy has increased spending the 3 times that he's been, 3 years he's been here, $133 million, $142 million, and now $170 million. That's how much he's increased spending here, folks. It's almost $500 million. Now, keep going down. They do talk about income tax collection is down for individuals and corporations. I was amazed. Well, not really amazed, but I definitely took note of how many times they talked about how the sales tax projections in this article were actually down. The sales tax projections. Hang on one second. Here we go. The widest gap compared with expectations for August came from sales and use taxes, which at $200.4 million fell $4.7 million below the projection from the Department of Finance and Administration. Okay, they repeat this a lot, and this is because, of course, they want more taxes. They want the internet sales tax, and we've debunked that argument a million times. But scroll down a couple more paragraphs, and you find that this quote, however, sales and use tax revenue was $200,000 higher this August. So we actually are, again, seeing record revenues. And again, what was the headline? States' revenue falls short of forecast. I mean, what? Come on. Would it really be a biased headline if you said, in spite of record revenue, states' forecast falls short? Wouldn't that be the headline that kind of sums up and indicts a lot of these people here? Let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible that the Republicans who are in leadership, who are proving themselves to be very reliable progressives, do you think it's possible that they are projecting so high, so unrealistic expectations so as to show the need for more sales taxes and more taxes? Do you think that's possible?
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program today. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, and we're building a liberty machine. It feels really good to say that today of all days, more so than maybe a typical day. The intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where it's not just campaign rhetoric. It is actually wanting to see the ideas of limited government, personal responsibility, fiscal responsibility realized. And the reason that I believe that so strongly is because I do not believe you can ever fully eliminate corruption in government, because we are fallen human beings. That's why government must be limited as we can make it in its size and scope, but while still existing, of course, because of the fact that we cannot eliminate corruption. We cannot perfect man with an edict or a law or a good campaign speech. So that slogan, intersection of conservative ideas and reality, it actually means more today in the wake of what I believe, according to my sources, coming indictments of several members of the Arkansas General Assembly and the political clique, the political elite, if you will, down at the Marble Palace. What's interesting is our whiteboard for this week has been Con Arkansas. Of course, it's only Tuesday. I wrote this really just highlighting the Jake File situation, as well as the John Woods, Mike and Neal situation, and everything else. I had no idea what was going to develop. For those of you here for the first time that are just trying to figure out whatever it is I know, and I know there are people listening, to our online broadcast who are here just because of what I've been tweeting. First of all, welcome. I don't have any names. I definitely know there are people who hold office that probably have names. According to what the way I understand this, there's certainly people that have names. There's none of my sources are on the record officially, and so there's really no point in. If I had the names, I certainly wouldn't be talking about them unless I, saw the FBI, saw the Justice Department documents myself. But what I can tell you is, and I had a tip, and then I called around, and I do have, it confirmed that the FBI met with the leadership of the Arkansas Senate at some point last week. I'm assuming that Senator Jim Hendren. There was a meeting essentially apprising, making aware Senator Hendren and maybe a few others what exactly is about to go down and the severe impacts it will have. Well, really honestly, there may be a lot of people moving up in seniority from the way I understand things. There are indictments coming, I'm told, very soon. I talked to one person who said they expected the indictments today, in fact. I've talked to others that say this week. I've had all kinds of tips about this, just from really, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, quite honestly. I have a source that says that not all of these indictments are about general improvement fund money that are coming down the pike. That, you know, that's what's been in the news. That's what's, well, if you can call it that, it's actually been in the news. It hasn't had the coverage that I would like to see in a statewide media. I can tell you that much, for sure. So, what I will say about this is, I had a tip. Then I have had it confirmed multiple times that this is what is about to happen. And the tip is hearsay, and then but eventually you get to the point where you say, okay, what about, and some of this stuff started last week. And I tell you what the weirdest thing is. The weirdest thing about all of this is that last week the whiteboard said FBI interviews, and I was just talking about, I actually made the joke. I made the joke that if you haven't been interviewed by the FBI, it seems like you've been worried, because you had that Gazette piece where they went down and they said, they said that there was, this person's been interviewed, has confirmed. I think it was Bart Hester said he's been interviewed by the FBI, and all these people. And, the general public's going to say, well, if you're interviewed by the FBI, that must be a bad thing. That's not necessarily the case at all. You're interviewed by the FBI, that doesn't mean anything. There's tons of people that have been interviewed by the FBI over this stuff. And what's funny is everybody has known this. Everybody has known that this is going to happen for a long time. People have been talking about the FBI in Arkansas. People have been talking about people wearing wires. We've now find out that there are secret recordings of John Woods. We now find out that as soon as he got done with his FBI interview, he called State Representative Micah Neal on this whole thing. And so, this is just a developing situation, is what I can tell you. But I'm just saying that this is maybe, and the reason I want to be clear here, Arkansas. The reason I'm telling you this is because Arkansas may very well have a second chance at limited government that is not just simply limited to this phony, fake Republican ascension, where people are now assuming that because you have an R next to your name, everything is fine, and limited government is being implemented, and conservative policies are being implemented, when there hasn't actually been the reform enacted that the people want. The reform enacted that the people have voted for is being ignored by those who are protecting the status quo. And corruption is a real thing. And it's obvious to me, in many cases, that some of these individuals don't want to police themselves. Some of these individuals they're incapable of policing themselves. That's the real truth of the matter. It's not that they're incapable of policing themselves on some of this stuff. So let me tell you about numbers. And I put this on Twitter. So the speculation is, and this is speculation just from what I have been told. And again, let me just be clear here. I had all of this information from one source, and then you get it from one source, and then you say, hey, did this happen? And then it's yes, and then did this happen? And it's yes, and so it goes on and on and on, and you're just like, okay, well, this is what's going on behind the scenes, and I am committed to telling you the truth. I'm committed to telling you what is happening, and not necessarily what they want you to believe is happening. So you have, what I'm told is, you have one Democrat senator, at least, who's looking at being indicted. Now, Gwen Moritz from Arkansas Business, I was talking to her on Twitter. She was saying that she knows of 2 Democrat senators who are under investigation. I'm told as maybe 2 more. I'm told as many as 3 Democrats could be indicted very soon. I'm also told that the rest of the people who are going to be indicted are Republicans. And it sounds like the Republicans far outnumber the Democrats here. I had somebody call me asking me for names. Again, I have no names. I've been given no names. But they wondered if some of the Republicans, used to be Democrats. I don't know. I'm also told that these indictments are not just confined to the Senate. They are also reaching into the House of Representatives. They're also down there, and we don't know how many. I have not been given any number on how many Republicans total, how many House members, how many senators. I haven't been told that. I am curious as to know if we are talking about Republican senators being indicted, if that's really what's about to happen. I'm curious to know if some of these Republican senators have been supported by the establishment in the past, specifically Governor Asa Hutchinson. If we're talking about the usual suspects here that have been in the media, that have been in the news, that we know have done something, whether it's the sworn FBI affidavit under penalty of perjury that mentions Jake Files, or whether it's, whether you're looking at John Woods and Mike Neal. I mean, with Jake Files and John Woods, we certainly understand them to be in with the establishment and to be receiving the praise or receiving the backing at one time or another of the Republican leadership and Governor Asa Hutchinson. I mean, it was Jake Files who this past session, let's remember, was championing the internet sales tax and was the front man on that. And then it was until I really think the bad press for Jake Files really brought Dan Douglas to the forefront to kind of push some of that through. Of course, I don't want to get into that right now. But then you look at John Woods. We've got the invitation, of Asa Hutchinson hosting a fundraiser for John Woods right before. That was in October of 2015, right before he said, "No, I'm not going to run anymore. I want to focus on fishing and time with family." Of course, we now know because of the tapes and because of the FBI interviews, we now know that he was being interviewed by the FBI shortly after that. So. And by the way, in that article, his lawyer was saying, "Tell the truth. Just tell the truth, John. Just tell the truth." This is potentially, politics aside, really going to hurt the confidence that people in Arkansas have in this system. Is it going to hurt the Republican Party brand? Of course. There's Democrats that are going to be ensnared here as well, but Arkansas may have a second chance if this is the case. And I would just say this. Get your special election hats on. Get them on. Because it looks like we're going to be seeing a ton of movement in both chambers of the House, according to the word on the street. And if you look at Twitter right now, just go look at my tweets if you want, specific points on some of this stuff. Folks, we're going to take a break. Before we do, though, I want to remind you about iTex. iTex, they are the techs to trust. And if you're a business owner and you are not protected for things like ransomware, cybersecurity threats, you got to know that those things are constantly evolving, and you need somebody that's on the case. And iTex is an Arkansas-based company that will help protect your business by protecting your data, and then that protects your bottom line. So ask yourself the question, is your business really prepared for stuff like that? I think most of us would say no. So be proactive. Don't be trying to look up, your data is all locked up and you've got to figure out how to buy a Bitcoin to get your data back, right? Carroll County Sheriff's Department actually paid the ransom when their data was locked up. If law enforcement's doing it, what choice do you have? You got to turn to the professionals. Be proactive. Equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today. The consultation is free, ladies and gentlemen. 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778. You can visit them on the web at itexusa.com. That's itexusa.com. Back in a moment. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas. In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, Loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now. 870-275-9799.
Sorry, my microphone went. 870-275-9799. Welcome back. All right, so we're talking about really the culture of corruption in Arkansas. I guess probably in the next hour, maybe the next half hour. I want to revisit an article, "The Cure for Influence Peddling in the state of Arkansas. It was a 2015 article. It was written over at Conduit for Action. What's fascinating is I found this article the other day on accident. I was just searching for John Woods, just trying to, because the stuff about the tapes had come out and everything else, and I was just curious. All right, let me just Google search John Woods. And on the first search page on down is the cure for influence peddling. And in the influence peddling article, they mentioned several names. Conduit mentioned several names that have since now been basically pinched. It's amazing. Now, not everybody in that list, has been indicted, or, not everybody has, but it is kind of uncanny. And the amount of people who were, accused of peddling influence or influence peddling, and yet now, and Jake Files is on that list, John Woods is on that list, and some more, and Michael Lamoureux is on that list. Now, let's not forget, and you got to wonder if we're talking about GIF money. I mean, that's what's in the news, that's what's in the media. And look, I don't mind to be the first to talk about this stuff. I really don't. I think that every single media outlet in the state should have been going up to these politicians and asking them, hey, are you a consultant? Hey, do you consult for anybody? And I honestly, we really can't talk about this. If this really is going into Medicaid, if this really is now moving from GIF into Medicaid entities, it is no secret that in 2013, the healthcare entities, out-of-state healthcare lobbyists, in-state healthcare lobbyists, I mean, the amount of money that came in to get Republicans to expand Medicaid was immense. We're talking about fighting over whether or not a $2 billion program gets implemented. And we know how the Democrats wanted it. We know the Democrats wanted socialized medicine. They wanted to expand it, but Republicans had just campaigned on not expanding it. And so how do you get a Republican, in my opinion, how do you get a Republican to do something they campaigned against and implement Obamacare in Arkansas? We're talking about a lot of money coming into the state. And so you look at somebody like Senator Brian King, who 3 and 4 times has tried to run a simple Medicaid disclosure bill that would require just public disclosures of what Medicaid entities are spending with taxpayer dollars, what they are spending on consultants, and or is a legislator a consultant? How much are they spending on lobbying? These type of things, very, very simple things that if you apply to other industries are already in place. Disclosing Medicaid monies, like when we're talking about, let's just say this: if you're a legislator and you have a lawn care business and you get a lawn contract with a state university to cut their grass, you just have to disclose that. There's no penalty. There's nothing bad that happens. People just have to know, hey, you're benefiting from this contract and you're also a politician. That's all that Brian King's disclosure bill that he tried to get through many times. I don't even know if there was ever an actual roll call vote on it. It did get out of the Senate committee and the full Senate last time, but then it died in the House committee. And I think some people just didn't even show up. They didn't have the 11 votes that it needed. And so I think we're really going to see here is a startling amount of corruption that is about to be exposed to the point where people are going to just be shocked, quite frankly. They're going to be shocked at all of this. Stay tuned. We have more at the top of the hour. And let me tell you something. If these indictments do, in fact, come out this week, if that's true, if there's any truth to that at all, what an interesting weekend it will be for the Arkansas Tea Party Alliance 3rd Annual Convention, Liberty. Liberty, does it matter? What an interesting bunch of conversations will be had at that convention this weekend if, in fact, we have more to tell you by the end of the week. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Thanks so much. We can't do it without you. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
The article goes on. Combining the first 2 months of the fiscal year, Arkansas has collected $10.8 million more than officials first projected, despite sales and use tax collections that were below the mark twice. Again, $10.8 million more than officials first projected. And yet the headline is that we're missing revenue projections. Not that we're having record revenues. It's interesting. And notice how Asa Hutchinson, the quote here, he actually really kind of ignores the fact that they have record revenues. No surprise. The newspaper here, the Demgaz, quotes him as being optimistic about Tuesday's report. Quote, "This report reflects the overall strength and growth of the state's economy," Hutchinson said in a statement. "The 2-month revenue picture is above forecast, but the continued sluggishness of sales tax collections bears watching." That's Governor Asa Hutchinson. Now, I want to remind you, why is the governor focused on the sales tax collections? Now, keep in mind, Amazon has voluntarily been collecting sales taxes. But I want to take you to a flashback. We have cities all across this state who are now listening to the lobbying arm for government, the Municipal League. The Municipal League is asking city governments, in many cases, to go against the state representatives that represent the same constituency and asking them to pass resolutions begging Governor Asa Hutchinson to call a special session and pass an internet sales tax that was just defeated a few months ago by the good defense of real conservatives who were bucking the leadership of Asa Hutchinson, who were bucking the leadership of House Speaker Jeremy Gillum, who were bucking the leadership of folks like Speaker Jonathan Dismang and Majority Leader Jim Hendren, who thought this was a good idea. Keep going in the article, because this is fascinating to me. It quotes Larry Walther of DFNA, and then, towards the end, quote, "But sales tax collection in August was mostly flat compared with the previous year, despite the addition of taxes that online retailer Amazon began voluntarily collecting in March." This article, you've got to know how to read between the lines, but this article this is really interesting information here. I think it's being somewhat misrepresented with the headline and the approach of the story, but I will say this. We are still short on sales tax collections, even though Amazon is voluntarily collecting them. Now, what does that tell you? It confirms everything you've heard on this program about how we are actually in a budget crisis in this state. We are spending far too much money in this state. And the reason, they proposed a new tire tax. They increased an old tire tax. They passed those tire taxes, by the way. The internet tax, the gas tax. The reason why they did the military retirement tax increase, which is now what we need to call it because it's a net tax increase. They cut taxes for military retirees, raised taxes on digital downloads, soda, and candy, and we now know that that's no longer a wash.
Back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, so we have been, the last couple of days, we launched our Patreon page. We appreciate it. We got our first video, our exclusive content coming out tomorrow, thanks to the editing skills of Mr. Joe behind the board there. But, hey, just real quick, just want to remind everybody that's listening, if you have not become a Liberty Machine engineer, a Paul Harrell program producer, or a Conduit Media insider, we still have those 3 levels available. So certainly do that. And, so it's quite fascinating because we have the support starting to trickle in here. And what I like about this is folks who always come up and they tell me, hey, we want to be able to support you, but we don't have a business. We want to buy advertising, that sort of thing. Look, if you see a value to what you just heard, on this program this hour, then keep supporting us. Because not only, we want to give you more content. That's the thing. We want to give you even more content than you're getting now and make it better for you and to keep building the Liberty machine. So do that and help us out. We're going to help you out and continue this. Continue building the Liberty machine in the next phase, the expansion, if you will, that is coming down the pike. All right, so let's continue, shall we? Let's go to our Twitter, and we're going to pull that up. These are the tweets that have been that we have put out there. Yeah, can you get us further in? You know what, Joe? First of all, back up. Go to the Arkansas Business article first that you just had up there. So this was Monday, okay? This was Monday. This is Andrew DeMillo's piece, the Associated Press. The headline was, Indictment Thoughts, Probes Grip Arkansas Capitol. It sounds to me like Andrew DeMillo, he wrote this on September the 11th, so that's yesterday. Sounds to me that Andrew DeMillo is essentially hearing, why else? Why do you write an article like that? In a lot of ways, the information that I have given you here and the information that you see there is kind of like two peas in a pod, right? Let me pull this up here so we can see. If you can you zoom in for the folks? I don't think they can read that well enough. If I can't read it, they can't read it, Joe. He talks about the worst kept secret at the Arkansas Capitol over the past several months is the waiting game. This is not really news. The only thing that's new about it is that things are about to break. And we're about to figure out what exactly is going on here. We're about to figure out how bad this really is. And this story needs to be talked about constantly. It should have been talked about for the last 12 months constantly, especially ever since the plea came out with Mike Neal, John Woods, then he was indicted later. But the trickle down with Jake Files. I have been raising the warning flag. I'm the one that's been calling for Jake Files to resign. I'm the one that's been out there telling people to call the Arkansas GOP and tell them what a disgrace it is right now to be a Republican with this kind of stuff going on, because it turns your stomach, and that you guys are supposed to be the alternative to the Democrat rule, and now you're not. And the sheer damage that this could do, folks, this could let the Democrats right back in the game. I'm just going to be honest with you. This could let the Democrats, which is a sinking ship party that is full of more and more extremists. And they're, the ones that are not are jumping jumping ship and becoming a Republican, a social issues Republican. But they believe in raising your taxes and spending as much money as we possibly can. But this could actually revive the Democrat Party. It really, really could. And it's and you know what? It's the fault of those who ignored the people. The people wanted real reform. The people wanted stuff like this to stop, to end. And you had that small minority of Republicans that paired with the Democrats to elect speakers of the House, that paired with the Democrats to pass Obamacare in Arkansas, which opened the floodgates with all of this money that came in. And that's just on the Medicaid side. The GIF side is immense in and of itself. We have politicians like Jake Files who are so lazy they can't even think of a proper money laundering scheme. That's how arrogant this whole situation is. Or maybe that's how desperate they were. You can't even think of a better, at least the AmeriCorps, Decision Point, Ecclesia, and all of that stuff with the consultant and then the kickbacks and you hire this guy. At least that's money laundering. At least they're trying to put a few more steps besides, hey, you're my employee. I'm going to give you this government money and then go open a bank account. We'll put it in and then you give it to me. The sheer level of arrogance that you think you're going to get away with that is it's an immense amount. I mean, it really is. And this is systemic. We're going to find out how deep this goes, and also watch for the people that are trying to protect this. Okay, watch out. I am sick and tired of people, and this is why I'm doing this show today. I'm sick and tired of people coming up to the line, right? They come up to the line and they criticize, and then it's like, oh, but I'm not going to go the full route. If anybody read John Brummett's piece today, when it got to Jake Files, he essentially said that. I couldn't believe it. The summary on Jake Files was incredible to me in the Brummett piece, which had to do with. Hang on one second. Got a frozen computer here. Yeah, GIF giving headaches. Okay. GIF giving headaches, and he does kind of a broad thing, but listen to what he says about Jake Files here. He says, two recent Republican legislators, a House member and a senator, have been charged with steering GIF money, then getting some kickbacks. Meantime, a sitting Republican state senator, Fort Smith, Jake Files, who chairs no less than the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee, acknowledged that federal authorities have been to see him. He has not been charged. Listen to this. All we can say, based on fine reporting in this newspaper, mainly, is that it seems he sought to get GIF money through his local planning and development district for his apparently struggling contracting business. I'm on a different article, Joe, but don't worry about it. Stay on this one. Can you believe that? That's the summary of Jake Files. And I'm thinking, have you read this affidavit? Have you read this? It's like, let's get right up to the edge, and then to me, it just seems like he's getting a pass. How is it that he's getting a pass? Could it be that the policies generally that the Republican leadership has pursued agree with big liberal columnists like John Brummett? I mean, in the national media, Republicans get hammered day in and day out, but Republicans in Arkansas don't by the statewide media. Why is that? It's really weird. It's also weird that, hey, I'm a conservative talk radio host. I spend more time trying to expose the corruption of Republicans than the mainstream media in Arkansas does. What is wrong with this picture? What is wrong with that? Meantime, a sitting Republican senator who chairs, John Brummett, again, all we can say, based on fine reporting in this newspaper, mainly, is that it seems he sought to get GIF through his local planning and development district for his apparently struggling contracting business. That's it? No, he got $14,000 of it in cash handed directly to him? No, that he got another $15,000 that did go to his business? There's no, he forged the contracting bids from other companies that have spoken out against him, saying, we never sent those bids to the city of Fort Smith? None of that? No, he got $80,000 in a transfer from a nursing home lobbyist to his business? No bringing up the, quote, loan he got from lobbyist Bruce Hawkins and then paid back right as he reported it a year or so later, or whatever that time frame was. None of that. Just mainly, just what is going on? If you're just joining us, let's go to the Twitter. Let's go back to the Twitter page. See if they can, if you can zoom in so they can see that. It was back at 200%. Normally it was, I'm the one that. Yeah, here we go. So here's some of our tweets from the last hour or so. First of all, it is very weird that last week the whiteboard read FBI interviews. So that's a thing. But let's start with I guess about 2 hours ago. I have sources that say indictments are coming very soon. Seems the FBI is trying to give the Arkansas Senate a heads up as to what's coming down the pike. Let me just elaborate on that for a little bit. What is coming down the pike? Well, I think just in terms of the government, in terms of what, stabilization, in terms of the fact that you have you do have a legislative body down there that governs things at the Marble Palace when they're not in full session. It's called the Arkansas Legislative Council. Now, my initial thought is, how many people, will government be able to continue to function? Will they be able to continue to rubber stamp all of Asa Hutchinson's contracts that he wants, in some cases $20 million more expensive than the people who are currently doing the job? You would need to know who is going, is my point. And that's essentially what is gone on. Is some, there have been people, from what I can understand, what I've confirmed is that there's been some information shared to make people aware of who's staying and who's going. Another tweet here: more sources saying indictments will affect House members as well as Senate members. I'm told as many as one Democrat in the Senate, maybe as high as 3. The rest are Republicans that are due to be indicted. Folks, this is a long time coming. This has been going on for so long. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this rumor, that rumor, this rumor, that rumor. Oh, it's coming. I promise. They say, oh, these people are going to be indicted. Those people are going to be indicted. And I've heard some names, just over the past 2 years or so. But I mean, but it's just, this is so immense. And what's so frustrating about this is how many of you out there don't know. How many of your coworkers at the water cooler actually don't know how bad this is. That's what's so frustrating with this. And that's why this program's committed to bringing you the truth. And so many times I've wanted to do this segment. I can't tell you how many times I have wanted to do this hour of radio, but I have held off and held off and held off because you just, but at this point, it's coming to the point where they're going to move on this. I hope what I'm hearing is correct. You can also, if it's true that we're talking about possible Medicaid issues instead of GIF issues now, then we're also talking about lobbyist consultants, very much like the lobbyists and consultants or whatever that have already been mentioned in the, Mike and Neil, John Woods, and everything else. Let's see here. If what I'm hearing is true, put your special election hats on. Folks, this is a joke, but what if so many people had to resign in the Arkansas Senate that they don't even have a quorum for the fiscal session next year, unless they have the special elections? What? I mean, come on. We want them to have a quorum, right? We want them to actually be able to function. Just keep it in mind. Another question: will some in the Arkansas legislature, the Republicans, to be indicted, will they also have a history of receiving strong support for Asa? Maybe they will. Again, our whiteboard, for those of you listening on our terrestrial radio stations across the state of Arkansas, and great places like Fort Smith, Russellville, Mountain Home, Stuttgart, Jonesboro. Our whiteboard, for you those that are not listening, or not watching but listening, is Con, Arkansas this week. That's right, Con, Arkansas. And our politicians may very well be convicts before it's all said and done. Let me know what you think about this. The phone number, call us or text us today, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. We're going to go ahead and go to break. We're going to be back, though, in just a minute. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll be talking with the Faulkner County Tea Party Chairman, David Crow, get his thoughts on this. Back in just a moment.
This is Mother Government. My people. The promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works, Obamacare, private option has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues, from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are 2 matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for our listeners at paulharrell.com, live stream, YouTube, and Facebook Live. All right, so a couple of things here as we're talking about the corruption here in Arkansas. Headline, the Times Record is now reporting that 2 contractors have now been added to State Senator Jake Files' foreclosure lawsuit. Now, this is the foreclosure lawsuit in which he pled the Fifth Amendment, and he still hasn't stepped down. He still hasn't resigned. I'm told, well, let's just say my speculation is he needs the money. Because, I mean, look how over-leveraged he was. And this is why he should have never been carrying the internet sales tax bill in the first place. The amount, I mean, if you went down the list, the liens against his business, the IRS problems, and then we had the GIF stuff that broke. And it's like, hang on a second. The amount of political leverage or potential political leverage, it calls everything that this guy supports, every policy he supports, into question because he could have an ulterior motive for it. John Lovett, again, Times Record is reporting that we have more contractors. It's an ongoing foreclosure lawsuit by First Western Bank, and they are the, I guess, the preeminent bank, over the other banks in these situations, who I'm sure want their money as well. It's a lawsuit, $1.2 million. We now know Mike Shuffett of Pecola, Kenny Gurley of Van Buren, they were each issued summons Thursday as part of First Western Bank's effort to regain assets in the, quote, complaint of foreclosure. Let's see, rep living for lean equipment. This is Files FFH Construction. All right. So then it does a very good job of recapping. Obviously, the Fort Smith newspaper here, very good job of keeping this. But let's talk about Mike Shuffett for a second, okay? Mike Shuffett is married to Deanna Gonzalez. Deanna Gonzalez is the recipient of that $26,000 in General Improvement Fund. She was at first reported as a contractor with FFH Construction, and there was an Oklahoma address. People went to Oklahoma, and there was nobody there, and nobody even knew where she was for a long time. Now, I'm sure the FBI figured it out, but, I mean, Joe, our board operator, he had this theory that she didn't even exist, that Jake Files made her up, which, Joe, you understand how funny that is at this point? If you go read the FBI affidavit, and you realize that Jake Files, of course, he didn't make this woman. That would have been, a little bit more of a creative money laundering scheme if he actually would have just made this woman up, with like a fake, that's getting closer to Catch Me If You Can type stuff. Just the complete fictional Facebook page and everything else. You catfishing the taxpayers of Arkansas, trying to get that money. That's essentially what that would be. But no, so Mike Shuffett, who's now involved in this lawsuit, married to Deanna Gonzalez, who was the recipient of the money that Files told her to go take out and give to him, according to the FBI affidavit. So, again, Jake Files should resign. Everybody should be calling for his resignation. And in my opinion, the Arkansas Senate Republican caucus would have been better off, in my opinion, saying nothing at all than what they said last week. To bring you up to speed, last week, the Arkansas Republican Senate caucus, they said that Jake Files, or somebody in Jake Files' position, doesn't have to resign or doesn't have to relinquish their committee assignments. It wasn't even really specific to a resignation. It was just about committee assignments. That you're good until you're actually charged with a crime. Once you're charged with a crime, you're no longer good and you can't be on committees. That's right. I just have a sneaking suspicion that very few people. How many Republicans have read the affidavit? I have. How many have actually read it? If you had actually read it, you would know that it's perfectly reasonable to ask for Jake Files to resign. Not only is it perfectly reasonable, it's also perfectly reasonable to approach any future situations like this on a case-by-case basis. Instead of making this pronouncement of, well, if he's ever actually indicted or actually charged with a crime, then he's got to go. But for now, you think there's confidence in Jake Files accurately representing his people? You think there's confidence that Jake Files could even get anything done, let alone be trusted to do anything at this point? No. For the sake of not just the Republican Party, not even the institution of the Arkansas Senate, just the idea of a representative government is at stake here. And it's like, no, we're not calling on him to resign officially. Why not? If this were a Democrat, you guys would be hemming and hawing if this were a Democrat. That's the real truth of this. And why did it take the Democrat Party so long to call for Files' resignation? Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that finally some sort of sanity was restored where we actually have two opposing parties in this state. But right now, between the good old boy system and the Republican leadership that's implementing Democrat policies, I mean, all you need to know, you want to know, we covered this the other day, all you need to know with why there's not really two parties trying to battle each other right now, all you need to know is that a sitting Republican governor got all of the Democrats in the Senate and the House to vote for a bill to end Obamacare, Medicaid expansion, with the condition that they were trusting the governor to line item veto that portion of the bill just so that they could get past the 3/4 majority constitutionally required to pass a budget, because there were people that wanted to end it by holding up the entire budget. That's all you need to know right there. That the Democrats trusted, the Democrats and establishment Republicans are so united against actual fiscal conservatives that they were willing to do that. Now, that union is still going on today. It's still happening on countless other issues that are important to the conservative, limited government base of this program and this state. We've got one more hour coming your way next. Back in a minute.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
You're going to see this headline. The headline that I have in front of me that's on the paper is States Revenue Falls Short. That's it. The one online, the one that you're seeing, States Revenue Below Forecast. August total of $5.4 million less than in same month last year. It's still conveying essentially the same thing. But if you start reading this, you'll find quickly that something, I don't know, there's something interesting about talking about how the state's revenue is falling short when, in fact, we're having record revenue. So that would actually mean something different. That would actually mean that your revenue projections are wrong. Now, we can go to a flashback a couple of weeks ago where Duncan Baird actually got, the budget director for the governor, actually got a massive increase in salary. And, of course, his job is to forecast the budget. He got this increase in salary after he failed to project the budget accurately, which caused the governor to have to cut $113 million in total from last fiscal year and this fiscal year. And then they said we have a revenue problem, not a spending problem. They were very key to point that out, by the way. They didn't say we have a revenue problem, not a spending problem, by the way, because they were responding. This was breaking news. No, they know who you are. They said we have a revenue problem, not a spending problem, because they know the criticism. They're trying to get out in front of the criticism. Listen to this. Arkansas's total general revenue, the second paragraph, Arkansas's total general revenue collection of $468.2 million last month also fell $500,000 short of expectations. However, after revenue in July set a record for the first month of the fiscal year, state agencies will have more cash available than expected so far in fiscal 2018. Stop. Again, headline is States Revenue Falls Short, but if you dig into the actual second paragraph here, you find out that they have record. July set a record for revenue. Well, that's weird. That means that it's their revenue projections that are off. And you know what? That would mean that we're actually spending too much money. If the government is getting record revenue and it's still falling below projections, how does that not indict the Republican majority, the leadership that refuses to stand up to the governor? And it also exposes Governor Hutchinson as being somebody who has spent money. This guy has increased spending the 3 times that he's been, 3 years he's been here, $133 million, $142 million, and now $170 million. That's how much he's increased spending here, folks. It's almost $500 million. Now, keep going down. They do talk about income tax collection is down for individuals and corporations. I was amazed. Well, not really amazed, but I definitely took note of how many times they talked about how the sales tax projections in this article were actually down. The sales tax projections. Hang on one second. Here we go. The widest gap compared with expectations for August came from sales and use taxes, which at $200.4 million fell $4.7 million below the projection from the Department of Finance and Administration. Okay, they repeat this a lot, and this is because, of course, they want more taxes. They want the internet sales tax, and we've debunked that argument a million times. But scroll down a couple more paragraphs, and you find that this quote, however, sales and use tax revenue was $200,000 higher this August. So we actually are, again, seeing record revenues. And again, what was the headline? States revenue falls short of forecast. I mean, what? Come on. Would it really be a biased headline if you said, in spite of record revenue, state's forecast falls short? Wouldn't that be the headline that kind of sums up and indicts a lot of these people here? Let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible that the Republicans who are in leadership, who are proving themselves to be very reliable progressives, do you think it's possible that they are projecting so high, so unrealistic expectations so as to show the need for more sales taxes and more taxes? Do you think that's possible? The article goes on. Combining the first 2 months of the fiscal year, Arkansas has collected $10.8 million more than officials first projected, despite sales and use tax collections that were below the mark twice. Again, $10.8 million more than officials first projected. And yet the headline is that we're missing revenue projections. Not that we're having record revenues. It's interesting. And notice how Asa Hutchinson, the quote here, he actually really kind of ignores the fact that they have record revenues. No surprise. The newspaper here, the Demgaz, quotes him as being optimistic about Tuesday's report. Quote, this report reflects the overall strength and growth of the state's economy, Hutchinson said in a statement. The 2-month revenue picture is above forecast, but the continued sluggishness of sales tax collections bears watching.
If you step in to do something about them, you're not.
That's Governor Asa Hutchinson. Now, I want to remind you, why is the governor focused on the sales tax?
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome. It is hour number 2. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We are building a liberty machine, and we need your help to do that. Call us, text us, 870-275-9799. Joining us now, I want to welcome back, we got the chairman of the Faulkner County Tea Party. David Crow is back on the line with us. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul, I'm glad to be with you. I'm calling you remote.
Uh-oh.
I'm out here on the road, actually working with one of the pleasures of my life, working with grandchild, and we are actually mowing yards.
Wow.
His brother, my other grandson, is off at Ouachita now. And so his bud wasn't able to help him today. So I am out working with him, and we're mowing yards and weed eating and doing all kinds of fun things. So,
well, good. Is that?
I am now in my truck.
Is he like a capitalist? Is he like mowing yards for money? Is that what's going on?
Yes, he is. He is been mowing yards for years. He's 15 and. Been doing it for years, as did his brother, and
good.
They are actually capitalists, and they're investing in the market, so they've got it rocking and rolling.
Wow. Well, that's very, very good. I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, you know, you're raising him to be a capitalist. I mean, that's got to trigger some people to actually go out and work.
I know.
Keep what you.
There's probably few people out there right now pulling their hairs out, thinking I'm doing that with a 15-year-old grandson.
Hey,
I mean,
you should take some of his money from him as a tax and just kind of get him really acclimated to being institutionalized. So.
Exactly. Stir him up.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so David, man, I am so excited. This weekend, it's been a long time. We've been pumping this for a while. It is the third annual, this Saturday, this September the 16th, third annual Liberty Doesn't Matter convention. And it's from 8 a.m. to 4 at the Robinson Center, the new ballroom overlooking the Arkansas River and the Doubletree Hilton Hotel. I know you're excited about this.
We are. I mean, I'm telling you, the last 2 weeks have just been crazy. If you go for ambulance going by, I'm over by the hospital. Yeah, it has been wild, and it's a lot of stuff that happens in the last week. If anybody's put on one of these programs, they know it, and it's just exciting thinking about all of the folks that are coming in to be together and to listen to the speakers and actively engaged in our breakout sessions. And it's going to be an exciting time. And we anticipate a number of people just showing up at the door. We've just sold almost a couple hundred tickets, and we expect another crowd to show up at the door. And so we're going to have a large group of people down there, so a bunch of conservatives enjoying themselves.
Yeah, and I understand that, I know Conduit will be there, and they're going to have a really good breakout session. I understand the topic's going to be the worst Republican scandals in Arkansas and what you need to know. I think that's going to be one to get in on.
I think so. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want. Actually, there's going to be a lot of people that have said, "Yeah, I remember that one. I saw that one. Oh, I was there in the meeting room when I heard them vote that way." Yeah. That I walked the streets for that other candidate. Yes, there's going to be a lot of that going on, I can bet.
So if you're interested in limiting government in Arkansas, you need to attend. You need to seriously consider coming. Ticket. You can go to right now our Facebook page, folks, facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. And the way to get your tickets, the Eventbrite page has been pinned to the top of our page for 6 weeks now. That's facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Click on that to get your tickets. I know you'll also have some at the door, David. So tell us about the speakers that we have lined up. You've got national talk radio host Mike Gallagher coming in, right?
Yes, Mike Gallagher. He's going to, matter of fact, he's going to kick off the convention and have a great takeoff, and then we're going to follow it up. We've got a couple of guests that are coming that are surprise guests that we found out today, and we're excited about them. But then we're going to have our breakout sessions and followed up with the lunch, and then Mike is going to come back on, do Q&A, take questions from the floor, have a lot of exchange there, and then Iverson Jackson is going to wrap up things for the day. But we're also going to have a great panel that Brenda Vassar-Taylor is going to lead out with Conduit, with a number of the representatives and senators from around the state are going to be there participating on that. And again, like I say, we're going to have some guests that show up that we weren't planning on, but we're going to make room for them. And Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin is going to be there. He's going to launch the event.
Good.
Give us a welcome address and talk about liberty as well. So it's going to be an exciting time.
Yeah, well,
as always, there's always something that happens that is a surprise, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of.
So it should be exciting.
A lot of great connections to make if you're interested in limiting government, and it looks like, David, honestly, we're going to have another great opportunity at this. And I know you're in a spot where you weren't able to listen to the program today, but. Quite frankly, I've got anonymous. So I had a tip about some of the things that have been happening with Arkansas corruption, and I've talked to, it's amazing, this person anonymously and this person confirms and that sort of thing, about what's going down, what could potentially even go down this week with indictments of people with the General Improvement Fund scam and even Medicaid. Fraud. Wow. And this could really reshuffle the deck in terms of special elections and things like that. And I know we obviously have John Woods and Mike and Neal, and that's in the news, and everybody's waiting for the day that Jake Files actually resigns, and that sort of thing. But I mean, there's a lot we don't know. That's I guess what is now out in the open, is that there's a whole lot we don't know, and there's been people being investigated, and we'll see. We'll see what takes place.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the articles in the paper about Jake Files, the GIF funds, walking around money, as I like to call it, because there are people, when you get that many millions of dollars put in the hands with no accountability, no audits or anything like that, there's going to be people that are going to be abusing it, and it'll be interesting. When the FBI starts in on their probes, they're not there just to check on things. Mm-hmm. They're there to investigate criminal activity and the like, and so it's regretful that is occurring. But there's all the time with that many people, there's going to be some bad apples. So be interesting. And Paul, I plan to. I was talking to one of the Conduit folks and told them I will definitely be listening to the replay. I know you guys post out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I look forward to hearing that. Yeah, the podcast. I look forward to hearing that here in about 1 hour.
Yeah. David, I mean, I know you have knocked doors for people all over the state that don't even live in your district. And we have really just seen, in a lot of ways, defeat after defeat after defeat in terms of getting people into office that say one thing, but then they go and they vote another. And we may be given an opportunity here, a second chance in a lot of ways. And I think if we are, we really are going to have to vet some of these candidates that may be replacements for people like Jake Files. And really make sure that they are going to represent the people and not represent the interests of Little Rock.
Right. It makes you want to just pull your hair out when you work so hard to put people in office, and all of a sudden, what they have told you during the campaign process is not what they govern on. And I tell you, it's so disappointing. It happened here in Conway. Vetted many, many times. The current mayor, who told me repeatedly he would never raise taxes, guess what he's doing? This month he announced he was raising taxes to do something we needed to have occur in Conway, and that was to fix all of our streets, which are absolutely pathetic. But there's a better way than to take it out of the hides of the people. The government seems to create problems, and then they have answers on how they're going to fix the problems by taking it out of our hides. So that's just another example of it here in good old Conway, but it happens all over the state as well. So I appreciate you guys for exposing that and making it real and showing it to we the citizens and letting us know what's going on. And I look look forward to all the things that you guys have planned for us at the convention this weekend.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think just people got to come out and see this. I mean, it's worth the trip. I mean, you can make the trip. Anybody can basically get to Little Rock in a day, early morning and be back home by night. So it's this Saturday, Arkansas Tea Party Alliance, the 3rd annual convention. And I want to reiterate, you don't have to be a member of the Tea Party to come. You just come if you want to limit government, and you're gonna meet a lot of great folks at Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. That's Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Let me ask you one last question, David. Where do you see things going from here? And I know that's a general question, and that's not necessarily specifically, directed at the indictments or anything else. But, I mean, we do have primaries coming up. We do have a fiscal session coming up next year. What are our goals? What are your goals from now till the next election?
Well, there's everybody's got to cinch it up. Really, we're hoping that out of this conference that we will have a lot of people that are engaged again. A lot of people have backed away this summer, but I think that they're taking a deep breath going into the voting, into the election cycle, and we'll plan to get engaged. And hopefully, we've learned a lot over the last 8 years at what we do, and we're smarter, we're brighter about what we do. We have a new round of people joining up on the Tea Parties. A lot of people that we've had involved have moved on, and they've gotten quite a bit older, but we've got a new group coming in, and so we anticipate that we'll have a lot of people engaged. They'll be going down to the section, the fiscal session, and engaging with that as well, and calling their senators and representatives to do the right thing and to represent them like they said they were going to in the past election cycle, and then also vet new and hopefully put up some good, solid conservatives. That's who we need. That's who we need down there in the Capitol, and walking those halls, those marble halls down there, and hopefully they can avoid getting marble fever. But we'll be back engaged and cinched up and ready to go.
All right. Well, Mr. David Crow, we appreciate it, sir. I will see you on Friday. We'll be doing the show from Little Rock there on Friday, right before, I guess, I know a lot of people want to spend the night, be there for Friday morning. So I will see you on Friday, okay?
Right. We'll eat some pizza that night, Paul.
All right. Hey, sounds good.
It'll be a good time. Good
pizza.
time.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. All right, folks, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back here in just a minute. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program Liberty Machine rolls on. Back in a minute.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
This is Mother Government. I come to the people of Arkansas with an important announcement. In disloyal circles, some are questioning the scope and size of government and telling the people government programs should not waste the labors of the people under the guise of taking care of them. This is a thought I must correct. People of Arkansas, you should not believe everything you hear unless it comes from a government source. Let me, Mother Government, set the record straight. You know you can trust me. After all, would your own mother lie to you? You should know the brand new, terrific program known as Arkansas Works has nothing to do with the old, bad program known as the Obamacare private option. Arkansas Works is good. People who say otherwise are bad and are seeking to undermine my collective vision for progress. If these groups continue in their criticism, then you should question their party loyalty. Tell them to quit focusing on this single issue. And then remind them Mother Government says the future of Arkansas depends on this single issue. In my next address, I will discuss the need to prepare your fellow citizens for the next round of revenue gathering that will be needed to continue funding my motherly goals. This message was brought to you by our partner, Aristocrats, serving Arkansas. Thank you for listening, and remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody. Watch Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, welcome back. So, let me just say this. People are reporting last hour, a lot of people talking about it. Had a lot of impressions on Twitter. I mean, huge spikes. People talking about our reporting about the fact that the FBI has been in contact with leadership in the Arkansas Senate, basically informing them, hey, we've got indictments coming down. Now I'm told, or at least I have a memory, don't indictments normally go out on Thursdays? Or like a Wednesday, Thursday thing? Is that normally when they go out, if they do go out? My point is many people are expecting these things very soon. Many people are expecting them this week, in fact. So just stay tuned for that. Obviously, we're going to bring that to you. And again, I have just had so many anonymous sources on this that it's quite frankly pretty overwhelming, and then confirmations and things like that. So in these anonymous sources, we take we're just reporting what everybody is saying is that There's going to be people indicted in the Senate. There's going to be people indicted in the House. There's going to be some Democrats, but more Republicans is what we're hearing than Democrats. More Republicans than Democrats. Also hearing a little bit more about, this is not just located or not just central to GIF. This is also potentially going into Medicaid. And we talked about that last hour as well. Well, there's no denying the amount of money, the sheer influx of money that came into this state back in 2013, where they really, if you just look at the campaign contributions, I mean, it used to cost $150,000 for a state Senate seat. Now it costs $300,000 for a Senate seat for a campaign. The fact that Obamacare money came in is no coincidence, or more like healthcare lobbying money. You got Arkansas healthcare PACs. You've got non-Arkansas healthcare PACs, that were essentially saying, hey, we know you campaigned one way, but we're going to need you to do the opposite of that in some of this. Politico has a story, by the way, in different news about a Washington, D.C. story. The headline is that Republicans are now jockeying for the looming budget chairman vacancy. And I saw where Tim Griffin is now saying that he believes Congressman Steve Womack will get it. That's Arkansas's Steve Womack is going to get the budget chairmanship, according to what has been reported. The budget panel Republicans are Steve Womack, Rob Woodall, and Bill Johnson. They're all eyeing the position. The lawmakers confirmed in interviews Womack and Johnson have already alerted Speaker Paul Ryan of their interest and started buttonholing members of the House panel that elects its chair, though Black, who is running for Tennessee governor, will likely retain her position until the House passes its 2018 blueprint, which is expected around the end of the month. So that could be huge, if Steve Womack ends up as chairman of the budget committee in Washington, D.C. I mean, that's huge. It's akin to being on, I mean, it's a lot of times Arkansas, we'll have somebody on the chair of a committee that's like head of an industry, like the agriculture committee or something like that, something that is vital to our state. But, that would be pretty high-profile stuff. No doubt about that. Folks, call us, text us, let us know what's going on. 870-275-9799. 870-275-9799. I see, let's see here, people on Facebook Live who are watching us. We certainly appreciate it. Hey, I want to encourage you guys, if you haven't checked out our Patreon page, please do. I posted a link on the Facebook Live, and it's up on our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. For $5 a month, we can give you more content. We've got our new video that's launching tomorrow, our bonus video. And we need your support. If you see the value in us exposing the truth and doing it like no one else is doing it in this particular medium, we are on terrestrial stations across Arkansas, great stations in northeast Arkansas, the River Valley, Stuttgart, Mountain Home, Fort Smith, and northwest Arkansas. We're on these great stations, but we're also growing online, and we want to continue to grow. Folks, there's so many people out there that need to hear what we have to say. So if you see the value in what we're doing, please consider continuing to support the show by listening, but also, giving us $5 a month and getting the bonus content, giving us $10 a month and getting everything beneath that, and also getting access to our list of guests and list of topics, and you get to be a producer. You get to decide what we're going to discuss. And then consider our top level, which is a Conduit Media Insider. $25 a month, yes, but you get the Liberty Machine t-shirt, everything underneath the previous tiers, as well as you become an insider. And once we get enough people who are subscribed to the Conduit Media Insider, we're going to have strategy sessions across the state where I'm going to do remote broadcasts, and we're going to hang out afterwards, and we're going to talk about liberty. We're going to talk about this phrase that we use called the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. That's what this is, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We don't just want to talk about things like the Second Amendment. We don't just want to talk about, better tax policy, less spending, less regulations, less obstacles to starting your own business and being, independent, not dependent on the government. We don't just want to talk about those things to get elected. We want to actually see them implemented. And, hey, folks, primary season's coming up. We may have a lot of vacancies. If what my sources are saying is true. And so we got to vet these people to make sure they're not just going to be yes men for whoever's in power. We got to vet these people to make sure they actually believe in the platform practically, not just on these platitudes that they use to get people's votes. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Back in just a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Collections. Now, keep in mind, Amazon has voluntarily been collecting sales taxes. But I want to take you to a flashback. We have cities all across this state who are now listening to the lobbying arm for government, the Municipal League. The Municipal League is asking city governments, in many cases, to go against the state representatives that represent the same constituency and asking them to pass resolutions begging Governor Asa Hutchinson to call a special session and pass an internet sales tax that was just defeated a few months ago by the good defense of real conservatives who were bucking the leadership of Asa Hutchinson, who were bucking the leadership of House Speaker Jeremy Gillum, who were bucking the leadership of folks like Speaker Jonathan Dismang and Majority Leader Jim Hendren, who thought this was a good idea. Keep going in the article, because this is fascinating to me. It quotes Larry Walther of DFNA, and then, towards the end, quote, "But sales tax collection in August was mostly flat compared with the previous year, despite the addition of taxes that online retailer Amazon began voluntarily collecting in March." This article, you've got to know how to read between the lines, but this article this is really interesting information here. I think it's being somewhat misrepresented with the headline and the approach of the story, but I will say this. We are still short on sales tax collections, even though Amazon is voluntarily collecting them. Now, what does that tell you? It confirms everything you've heard on this program about how we are actually in a budget crisis in this state. We are spending far too much money in this state, and the reason they proposed a new tire tax. They increased an old tire tax. They passed those tire taxes, by the way. The internet tax, the gas tax. The reason why they did the military retirement tax increase, which is now what we need to call it because it's a net tax increase. They cut taxes for military retirees, raised taxes on digital downloads, soda, and candy, and we now know that that's no longer a wash. It was no longer neutral. It was no longer just some neutral shift. It was actually a net increase on the people of Arkansas. They were trying to find revenue everywhere they could from you and me because Asa has increased spending so much. And you see him mentioning the sales tax. It's concerning. We need to watch this. Isn't that nuts that their sales tax projections are not hitting their mark, even though Amazon is collecting the tax? Is that not crazy to you? I mean, if you've been listening to this show since we've been doing the live remotes, down at the Marble Palace, doing all of this stuff, I mean, the coverage, this has got to be shocking. That's why I kind of got conspiratorial thinking, are they setting their projections so high so there will be shortfalls? And then the media, of course, the lapdog media, the lapdog legislature, they can just start talking about how we've got to have more revenue from the people. The phone number to call us, text us, 870-275-9799. Gosh, folks.
Fighting dependency on government so Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in the home stretch here. We appreciate you listening. Can't do the show without you every single day. Hang on, where did my Facebook Live video go? There we go. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Okay, so we have a ton of corruption that's on display in the great state of Arkansas, and we want to be better than this. The Republican Party of Arkansas still hasn't asked for Jake Files to step down, even though he's mentioned in a sworn FBI affidavit under penalty of perjury is committing wire fraud, as forging bids so he could get your taxpayer money and give it to his employee who immediately gave it to him. Still hasn't called for him to resign. The moral high ground here is fast being lost by the Republican Party because we have not listened, and I'm not a registered Republican, but we have not listened to the people's cries for reform. So let's just go down the list. Let's go down the list. We have Jake Files, who's in the news now. My sources obviously say, look, we've got a ton of indictments that are coming down, and who knows who it's going to be. I've told some are close to ace. I'm told one, two, maybe three are Democrats. The rest are Republicans, and it's even going to affect the House. And we've been hearing this is going to happen for a long time anyway, by the way. This is not new stuff. It's just I'm just now bringing it to you because it's real, because the FBI has been in contact. I got that confirmed, been in contact with the leadership of the Senate, essentially saying, hey, you guys may need to, just get prepared for what's going to happen. And I'm, here some people are pretty discouraged by that. So from that point, I want to take you a flashback. If you want the most in-depth coverage over what's been going on in this state for the last 3, 4, 5 years, you have to go to conduitforaction.org, and I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove it to you. This is a flashback article. Hello, Facebook Live audience. Thank you so much for being with us. Also, those listening at paulharrell.com and YouTube. This is a flashback article. The cure for influence peddling in Arkansas. Notice the date. Joe, will you highlight the date? That is November 10th of 2015. This is around the time that we now know John Woods was being interviewed by the FBI. Okay? The cure for influence peddling. Listen to this. During the last few years, as Arkansas has increasingly elected Republicans to manage the people's business, it may appear to many that influence peddling and public corruption is on the rise. History shows there has always been this corruption on the other side of the aisle, but new, shocking, and sensational revelations may leave voters wondering, can we really improve our lot with the vote? The answer is a resounding yes. Now, I want you to just understand how credible Conduit for Action looks right now. This is incredible. If we're going to go down the list, this was one of the best articles that has ever been written, and Brenda Vassar-Taylor wrote it. Review the following political activities, some criminal and others, some certainly less egregious. They may include new or old stories about your favorite politician or political groups. You may be entertained or shocked, or upon reflection, you may be left with bated breath for what's next. But keep in mind, smaller government is the key to reducing all government problems, including corruption among those in the political class. Now, I talked about this at the beginning of the show today. Why is that the case? Because, folks, I strive for limited government because I don't want people to be able to do things to me by force with the government. And because you can never eliminate the corruption in the human heart, right? And you're never going to eliminate corruption from politics then. So that would mean that for the security of the people, government needs to leave us alone and let us be secure in our God-given, unalienable rights as much as possible. Right? And to do that, government must be small, limited, and focused in what it does. And that is not what we have here, but it is what we can have here in Arkansas. Trust me. So review this. Now, we're going to look at this timeline. Now, who is number one on this list? This was John Woods. Go down. Where's John Woods at? There we go. Number one on the list, John Woods. Where's John Woods now? John Woods is being indicted. Okay? So this was in 2015. This year, John Woods was indicted, but this is actually about something that happened in 2013. Quote, during the general session, Senator Woods was the sole Senate sponsor of Ethics Amendment Issue 3, ethics, to the Arkansas Constitution. It passed by the voters in November 2014, which, in spite of its title, doubled term limits for state, House, and Senate, increased legislative salaries 2.5 times, while claiming to reform ethics between lobbyists and legislators. Though he had the endorsement of Governor Asa Hutchinson, as evidenced by an October 20th, 2015 fundraiser in Senate District 7, which that is up right now at my Twitter feed, at Paul Harrell 1776. You can see the invitation because I retweeted it, at Paul Harrell 1776. Woods withdrew as a candidate for re-election to the state Senate on November 7th, 2017, after setting up his successor for his Senate race, Lance Eads. Okay, so that's the first, been indicted. Then, of course, we already knew this. Arkansas Treasurer Martha Schaffner, treasurer, Democrat, she was getting money in a pie box. We know about the nursing home and the buyout and the payout of Judge Mike Maggio. And we know about what happened with Senator Paul Bookout. Okay, all of this. But here's somebody on the list that was the president of the Senate, then the chief of staff to the governor. And listen to this. Now, nothing has happened to him yet. While serving as president of the Arkansas Senate, then Senator Michael Lamoureux received $120,000 as a fee paid directly to his personal law firm from the Arkansas Faith and Freedom Coalition, or Arkansas Faith and Freedom, a 501c4 nonprofit. This fee was paid to Senator Lamoureux from the nonprofit's total gross donations received that year of only $141,000. So they raise $141,000. He gets $120 of it. Something that doesn't make sense here, right? Again, the governor's chief of staff, ladies and gentlemen. The services reportedly rendered by his law firm were those of a fundraiser for the organization. Lamoureux was reported to be the only attorney in his firm at the time. These donations were reported to have been made through Arkansas lobbyists, including Gilbert Baker, Ted Mulinex, and Bruce Hawkins. Oh, Bruce Hawkins is also the guy that gave Jake Files, but hey, that's something else. Who else is on this list? Former state representative, now lobbyist John Burris made this cut back in 2015. About February 6, 2014, we found out that in May of 2014, an ethics complaint was filed against then term-limited Representative John Burris during his campaign for the state Senate, alleging that he had filed incomplete financial information as a House member, as he had obtained a loan for $216,800 February 2014 from a bank controlled by then Speaker of the House Davy Carter on a salary shown on his financial statements of less than $16,000 per year, which was set to end due to his term-limited elected position. Representative Burris did not win his Senate seat. Scott Flippo did, thankfully. We talked about Con, Arkansas on Monday. Turns out during 2014, this PAC received $12,500 in total contributions, but paid out only $1,100, less than 9% of the total annual donations to candidates, which is the purpose for its existence. The balance of $11,441 was reported to have been paid to the consulting firm Diamond State Consulting, then political manager Keith Emus at the time, to John Burris's Senate District 17 campaign in 2014. The Conservative Arkansas 2014 ethics report showed no contributions to the Burris campaign, even though there were radio ads played in Senate District 17 supporting Burris, quoting Conservative Arkansas as sponsors of the ads, and there are copies of that. Of course, Arkansas law only allows reasonable administrative expenses to be paid by a PAC, with all other monies received to go directly to candidates or ballot committees. Let me say something about John Burris. Now, he is a lobbyist, okay? He is a lobbyist at this point. And, of course, you know, he got that job as lobbying because he implemented Obamacare here in Arkansas, and then he lost, and he's actually doing way better. I mean, financially, he would be grateful for the loss at this point because he's probably making a lot more money than he would in the Senate. I mean, the only way to make a lot of money in the Senate, it seems, is to launder GIF money to yourself. So he got to avoid that. But I will tell you this. If it is true that the FBI investigation has expanded, which we thought it had, do you remember when the FBI was going after the Bureau of Legislative Research's emails? Because they have the server. The Bureau of Legislative Research controls the server that all of the emails funnel through from the legislators. And so that made the news a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. And we said at the time, we had the former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research on this program, David Ferguson, who said it may be that the investigation has expanded beyond general improvement funds. And what do we know now? I have a source, multiple sources that say, anonymously, FBI investigation indictments are going to be not just necessarily about general improvement funds, but also about Medicaid fraud and all that Medicaid money. If that's the case, you will see lobbyists and consultants go down too. You will see lobbyists and consultants go down as well, if that's the case. Then you have Senator David Sanders here is mentioned. I want to get down to some more people. All right, here, look at this. Okay, Jake Files, right? Jake Files is mentioned in this piece. This was written back in November of 2014. News broke late October 2015 that a loan made by lobbyist Bruce Hawkins to Senator Jake Files in the amount of $30,000, unreported by lobbyist Hawkins due to an alleged oversight, had been made on the same day that Files reports to have paid off a hot check in the amount of $6,868.16. The news report also mentioned several tax liens held by the state against Files companies while Files serves as chair of the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee. We knew this back in 2015, folks, and he has been caught in an FBI affidavit, and he still won't resign. And we could update this article if you wanted to, and you could say he also got $80,000 from a healthcare lobbyist transferred directly to his account that was discovered in the civil suit, in the discovery of them trying to figure out where all these assets are. So out of the people on this list, I mean, you got Senator Jake Files, who, if you read that affidavit, is going to go to jail. He's going to be prosecuted for this. You have John Woods at the top of the list. I mean, the only people on here the only people that are not on here is Mike and Neil. But if you want to, I mean, is there anybody else on this list that may, I don't know, be implicated here? I don't know. All I'm pointing out is in 2015, two of the people on this list we now know are involved in things that are criminal. The conclusion is mentioned. Can you scroll down to the end, Joe? As mentioned, some of these acts by our political class are criminal. Some may be influence peddling, and some simply an oversight. Hey, you know what's interesting is the stuff on here in 2015 that we knew was criminal. There's stuff on here now that we know is criminal. In terms of the people themselves, not the specific things that are mentioned here, but you get the point. So, if you want an in-depth look at what's going on in Arkansas politics, you cannot read Conduit for Action too much, right? Go to the homepage right now over at CFA. I mean, that's just a flashback. But if you go to the homepage, what do we got? We covered this last show. No spending problem. Asa burns through millions, picking highest bidder. You've got the quiz here you can take. In defense of Governor Asa Hutchinson, which is a very sarcastic look at the fact that he is not a conservative. You look at Senator Jim Hendren to grade his own paper. Will he finally pass? This is about Senator Hendren, the majority leader, trying to grade the scorecards of independent organizations he disagrees with. So he wants to make a scorecard of scorecards because they didn't give him the score he wanted. I mean, it just goes on and on. You can get lost on this site and really be knowledgeable about everything going on in Arkansas politics today. So I'd encourage you to do that. It's conduitforaction.org. That's conduitforaction.org. I don't think the average Arkansan understands how vast the corruption in Arkansas politics is. And if you want to know why, if you say, Paul, how is it this way? How is it so bad? You just got to remember one thing. It's very simple. One thing got to remember. We have not actually had reform in this state. We have the same institutions in the Marble Palace down in Little Rock that are, folks, these institutions almost gave us two Clintons in the White House. They started the political career of Bill Clinton, and he went to the White House, and Hillary Clinton got her start here too. And there has not been real, true reform since then. You have to understand that. And the biggest gift to the Democrats, in a lot of ways, people say the biggest gift to the Republicans was Barack Obama, because that's what turned Arkansas red. We're not red. We're not red right now. We're actually purple. Asa Hutchinson is a transition governor. And right now, we got to get as many people as we can educated to know that they're not really governing the way they said they would. And we have people, the opposite is really true. Barack Obama was good for preserving the Democrats in Arkansas. They just many of them became Republicans. Many of them became Republicans. Many of them want to rewrite the Republican platform to something that's more liberal. These people hate the Tea Party. These people despise limited government conservatives. And this is right here in our own backyard. I want you to listen to me here. Listen to this for a second. 3 million Arkansans versus 300 million Americans. 3 million Arkansans versus 300 million Americans. We have such a better opportunity here to make this state more independent, more prosperous, by changing the hearts and minds just via education. You go issue by issue on these things. You go issue by issue on taxes, on regulation. You go issue by issue on the social issues like abortion. That's off the charts, right? Or the Second Amendment. Obviously, we're such a gun culture here. I saw a graph the other day just about how incredible, like the gun ownership by color shades, and the darker it got, the more guns you had. And Arkansas was black. We were the darkest state in the union. You go issue by issue, it's a slam dunk. The key is letting people know what they're really doing, letting people know how the committee process works, letting people know how right now there's all this protectionism going on. And the smaller amount of people that know how a system works, the more opportunity there is for corruption. The larger amount of people that know how a system works, they're going to be able to call people on their, quite frankly, folks, their BS. We have to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Send me a text. Sound off on Facebook, 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
Order. In the name of public safety, order. This meeting of the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards is called to order in the name of public safety. What's on the agenda for the day?
We have before us today, per our summons, a representative from the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing cosmetology, cosmetologist, and all things hair care and beauty.
Right. Of course, I remember this. In the name of public safety, ma'am, please state your name for the record, and thank you for appearing before us today.
Yes, my name is Cosmo Glamour Gazette, and I'm here in response to a letter our state board received claiming we're in violation of the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards. In the letter, you claim that our licensing board is in violation of your rules and regulations because we have failed to, quote, pay tribute, end quote, and therefore have not been granted a license by the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing licensing boards to, quote, shake down the Arkansans who have an interest in cosmetology, end quote.
In the name of public safety, order. Yes, Miss Gazette, we sent you that letter because you have not obtained our approval in the form of a license from our board to distribute licenses to the professional class your board strives to protect. In the name of public safety, of course.
Of course.
So, in the name of public safety, and just so we can get this for the record, you do admit and agree with our board, the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards, that you have not obtained a license, thereby revealing your board of cosmetology to be operating outside our rules, regulations, and authority?
Well, sir, I'm not sure our board agrees that we need a license from your board to continue to shake down, to look out for the public safety of Arkansans.
In the name of public safety.
In the name of public safety.
Well, it seems we are at a bit of an impasse.
if we are not in agreement that your board owes us tribute.
Sir, maybe we could ask and see if there's a bureaucrat in the house.
Ah, yes. Yes, that would shed some light on things. A bureaucrat. Yeah, in the name of public safety, is there a bureaucrat in the house? We need someone to resuscitate and confirm our authority as the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards.
Here.
Ah, yes. Oh, good. Come to the end of the table in the name of public safety and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, I am Despot Ringleader, the head of the Bureau governing all state bureaus, and it is my testimony the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards does have the authority to demand tribute in this situation and will provide in exchange a license to say they can continue to operate in the name of public safety.
It's hard to argue when the public safety is put at risk. Very well. We will consider Mrs. Ringleader's testimony as truth, and we will pay tribute in the name of public safety, of course.
In the name of public safety.
In the name of public safety.
He puts the Paul in politics. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Coming back into some Floyd Kramer. It's only the best song to end any broadcast, any show ever, period. Well, aside from the Sleeping Beauty waltz, of course. Let's see here. We got some texts coming in from across the state of Arkansas. We got Rick in Marion County writing in, the more heads that roll, the better off the people will be. The swamp starts in Arkansas and stretches to Washington. Wow. Take a look at that. I mean, that's incredible. That's a great text. Rick in Marion County, thank you so much for listening. Also, thanks for the uptick in Facebook views right now that we're experiencing. I think we have Jan Morgan to thank for that one, for sure. Some of our comments on Facebook right now are very interesting to me. First of all, Jan Morgan, who is obviously, she's the owner of the Gun Cave, down in the Garland County area, huge Second Amendment activist, knows so much about Second Amendment rights in this state and individual freedom as well. You've seen her on Fox Business as well. But Jan writes on our Facebook post, love it that Arkansas is heavy on gun ownership, yet our Republican governor strong-armed Republican legislators to vote like anti-gun radicals on gun rights legislation. And you know what? I guess that was was that before or after that Asa posed with Moms Demand Action? Before or after that? But yeah, she raises an excellent point. The type of situation that they were put in, and the NRA was responsible for this in a lot of ways. I lost a ton of respect for the NRA in this past session. Is to put them in the position where they're voting for something that sounds good on a platitude. Your gun rights are going to be enhanced, but in reality, they're making more barriers, and so it's actually a liberal position, but they just advertise it and message it with carefully crafted language to make them sound conservative when they're really not conservative. And then Jan Morgan also writes, and took the opportunity during one of the biggest gun rights debates in the state last year to meet with and do warm and fuzzy, Best Bud photo ops with Michael Bloomberg's anti-gun radical group Moms Demand Action. There we go. So there we go. So during. And yeah, we also have, Jan on the Facebook now saying, yes, the NRA did buckle. And they did, and I don't understand it. I had an interview scheduled with the NRA lobbyist several times on this during the negotiation. I mean, this is back when it was really upended. This is back when I was loving it. Just because you were watching the governor's office, kind of be squeamish, and you're like, hang on a second. There's actually political will right now to make this thing more conservative, right? And he doesn't want that. He doesn't want it to be, a true gun rights bill. That's why they never heard Linda Collins Smith bills or some of the other bills in judiciary. That's why the governor's nephew, Jeremy Hutchinson, would end the committee without actually hearing other bills because they didn't even want to go on record. Republicans, they went down there in leadership trying to go on record the least amount of times possible so that they wouldn't have to vote with the governor on what were liberal positions and expose themselves as being progressives. So, but back to the NRA, and I know we got 30 seconds, but back to the NRA, it was so frustrating to me to see them not really, it just didn't seem like they wanted unrestricted gun rights. When there was clearly, if you put a bill on the floor and these guys were on record, it would have passed. That's the thing, it would have passed, but they were controlling, they were maneuvering, they were playing chess. Thank you guys all for listening. You can help us out over at patreon.com/thephp. Arkansas, be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.